Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee, Books, and Rain, where we are actually missing both coffee and rain today. Well, it did rain earlier, so maybe we can take that as like a possible. And we did have coffee also earlier, but I drank it all, so that's my bad. But we always have books. I have plenty of books, not only behind me. I did get an order from Thrift Books the other day. I'm gonna hit up a new, like, used bookstore that just opened here in Huntsville probably this weekend. I know it's kind of like their soft opening right now, but I follow them on Facebook. They're called the Bookworm, but it's like the WYRM, I think. It's a really cute little logo, and so I'm kind of excited to just swing by and be a patron for them. And they're not too far away from me, which is also really fun. I love those kind of places, and just kind of being able to be a patron. I have a little kind of free library outside of my door of my apartment, so maybe I'll just go pick up a couple books that I can put on that shelf. If anything, I even thought about swinging by the public library, seeing if they had any books that were for sale that I could also put on there. I know some thrift stores often have books available, and I don't care if I have to pay for it and then can just give them away. But I like having books available for people to just pick up if they just want to read them. It does seem as though my free little library has actually had some pretty good traction from the number of books that look like they've been picked up. I am actually down to only about maybe 5 or 6 left when I know I put a good probably 17 to 20 out there. And then a couple other people look like they had put like maybe 3 or 4, and they've kind of like rotated through. So, hey, I think it's done pretty well. But all of that being said, we are continuing our month of November. We are not quite to the middle of November yet, but man, has this month already been a bit of a journey. We are going to dive into one called The Keeper of the Key by Nicole Willson. Now, this one was very interesting because I was definitely looking for some spooky vibes. And even though we have passed technically the Halloween season, I think spooky vibes can go all the way up to Thanksgiving, and then day after Thanksgiving we switch to Christmas. I think fall, as the leaves fall and change and all of that sort of stuff, I think it can be spooky anytime you want it to be. And so I'm still reading my spooky books, although there is one book that I'm currently reading that just does not feel like, it's more like inner demons rather than like a spooky haunted house, and I'm probably going to review it because I think it's just a good conversation. But let's talk about The Keeper of the Key by Nicole Willson, and let's dive into the summary. Oh, nope, I clicked the wrong word. I clicked the horror word, and I'm not sure I really call it horror, but it is a little creepy. Definitely YA for sure. Definitely reads YA as well. There are 1,000 things 16-year-old Rachel would rather do than upend her life, move to the into Morgan House, an old, rundown mansion owned by her mom's boyfriend Jeff. And that's Geoff. So funny because I have a baby dragon tattooed on one of my hips, and that my brother named it Jeffrey with a G, like the Toys R Us like giraffe, and so that's exactly how you spell his name, Jeffrey. But when her mother announces when they're relocating to St. Mary, Virginia to live with him, Rachel's cut off from her friends and her life as she knows it. St. Mary is remote, lonely, and the best thing about it is Nick, a guy she knows is worth keeping when he takes her to a cemetery on the first date. So romantic. Rachel struggles to get along with Jeff and his mile-long list of annoying house rules. In particular, his bizarre insistence that she stay out of the basement. But something in Morgan House plays its own rules. At night, an unknown force pulls Rachel down into the forbidden cellar. showing her harrowing visions of a strangely familiar man lurking in the shadows. When a sudden tragedy strikes her family, those visions become more frequent and more violent. The dead issue urgent warnings, and if Rachel doesn't heed them, she'll become part of Morgan House forever. From the author of the Bram Stoker. The other one would probably be a terrible, like, spicy novel. Award-nominated Tide Pool comes a chilling new gothic horror that will sink into your bones. Definitely YA. Not sure about the gothic or the horror, but falls into the fiction as well. So let's dive into it because I give this one a 4 stars. I probably have to round up a little bit to the 4 stars because I probably give it more like a 3.75. Only because I feel as though it is a lot of teen angst at first. There is a lot of kind of first love, romancy, crush sort of thing happening at first, especially when it comes to the her and Nick situation. There is definitely, if when you read this book, I don't want to give a ton of spoilers away for you. It's not a long book. It does not take like a ton of pages to read. Gosh, did I even make a note about how many pages it was on my thing? Yeah, it was about 275 pages. So goes pretty quickly. That was ebook pages, so it could be depending on like print version if it goes to print. I'm not sure because Goodreads says ebook. Expected publication November 12th of 2024. So just throwing that out there as well. But the relationship between her and Nick is the very first thing that I questioned. I completely understand how Rachel and Jeff, her mom's boyfriend, don't get along. I will say that my mom has a boyfriend. My mom and dad are divorced, and so my dad is remarried. My mom is not remarried, but she has a longtime boyfriend, and so I get along pretty well with both of them. But I could see that if I was younger and if things had been tumultuous, if the kind of divorce situation had gone differently, that the relationship for me to have with each of them could also be different as well. I also don't live in the house with either of them. I did actually, for a very short period of time, stay with my mom and her boyfriend while I was kind of in transition from moving. There are some like just kind of like some stressors, but it's just simply because I always kind of for more or less felt like a guest, and I also like I've been so independent and on my own for such a long time. But getting back to other Rachel, not me Rachel, this Rachel being 16 years old, living with her mom and her mom's new boyfriend, and I do say new because her mom has only, it sounds like, been with Jeff for about a year. Jeff seems to be in some sort of business slash accounting, but it seems very random when he goes to work. I don't know when this dude actually goes to work, because it seems as though he's almost always at the house. So, don't know about that, but I guess he does go to work at times. Her mom, I'm not sure what her mom does kind of for a living either, but her mom seems happy enough. I think her mom is trying to move on with her life. Jeff seems to make her pretty happy, but everything's almost a little too saccharine, a little too sugar-coated. They don't seem to talk about some of the hard stuff, so everything moves pretty fast with Rachel's mom and Jeff. And so Rachel's mom agrees for them to move in with Jeff, which is about an hour away from the apartment that Rachel and her mom have been living in. So Rachel's going to have to upend her life to go move into this big house. And it's very odd because when they move into this house with Jeff definitely still makes it feel like it's his house and he is letting her, Rachel, live in that house. And so when Rachel is in her room, Jeff gets very much like, this is my room, I'm just letting you borrow it, sort of like mindset. And like her mom, to try to keep the peace at times, doesn't really stand up for Rachel all that often. And so that was something I was very kind of concerned about. I was like, look, I get it. You were stuck between like your boyfriend and your daughter, but I really hope you're on your daughter's side more so than the boyfriend's side, because I feel as though your 16-year-old daughter needs you like a little bit more than home dude who's more possessive of his house and just thinks your daughter's crazy and like all this sort of other stuff. Because if your daughter has never acted out of sorts and her dad has passed and all this sort of other stuff, then maybe we need to work with her a little bit more. But there were a couple things going on. Yes, the house truly does seem haunted. Like it's not just in Rachel's mind. Rachel truly does get visited by ghosts. There are a couple moments that almost echoed or reminded me of, like, I don't want to say The Shining, but we will say The Shining because there was like a bathrooms incident. And then even though Rachel would go to sleep in her bedroom, she would wake up in the basement. And then Jeff would then blame her for trying to sabotage the relationship. Like, what are you doing in the basement? Instead of asking her, like, what happened. So a lot of reasons not to like Jeff. A lot of things to question as to what's going on in this house. Her mom just seems la-di-da-di-da. I don't know what's going on, so I'm going to keep my heads in the clouds. And then there's Nick, like the kind of moving too fast boyfriend who super mysterious, probably brooding but semi-cute. Like, he's described as being pretty cute, but also aloof and possessive at the same time. Like, that's the best way I can really describe it. So there's just things that he does that I'm just like, I feel like this is a really toxic situation on all counts, and maybe Rachel and her mom need to like work on themselves and cut all guys out. Rachel does have a really cool grandma that is, I just feel like maybe Rachel just needs to go live with grandma for a little while. Maybe that would be a better situation. So, all in all, those are my thoughts in that particular situation. Again, not trying to give any spoilers. The house is haunted. Jeff is super possessive of his stuff. He does try to dictate certain things about Rachel that I don't think a boyfriend or anything like that, or even if he was like the stepdad, should be able to try to dictate about someone who's not his actual child without having a conversation with the mom first, or even having some sort of logical, like, hey, so, you know, let's have a family like, there's nothing. It's more like my way or the highway sort of thing. And I hate that. Like, I hate that so much. I did not grow up in a household where it was kind of my way or the highway. I did grow up in a household where it was a little bit more open conversation. However, my father did not like tattoos. My mom didn't mind. So when I turned 18, I got a tattoo, but I took my mom with me. My dad didn't like it, but I was old enough to get it, and I paid for it with my own money. And so I now have 13 tattoos because I have bought and paid for them. This is what I did. And I am very happy, again, very independent, and I hope by the end of this book you will also, I don't know if you'll be happy, but the resolution is pretty well done. It is a one-off, there's not going to be any more, but I would love to know your thoughts if you do pick this book up. I would love to have someone to talk about this book with if anybody else picks this up, because again, I am trying not to spoil this book. I always try not to spoil books. That is one of my biggest things, but when it comes to a book I want to actually talk about, and I can't really find anybody to actually talk about it with yet, like I can find myself kind of nibbling at pieces that I just want to dive into. So I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to pause and just kind of go ahead and let you guys go. And with all of that being said, I hope you will like and subscribe. Maybe leave me a comment. And I hope to see you on the next page, in the next episode, all those sorts of fun things. And until next time, have a great one.